Kufa was a legendary assassin hired to take out the princess. However, when he sees how pitiful she is, and also that she's a baddie, he decides to train her to become stronger in exchange for getting to clap her royal cheeks. It all started when Kufa got to the house of the Duke to resume his role as the princess' new tutor. But while the housemaids welcomed him, they suddenly spotted the princess doing gymnastics on the balcony rails. The maids called to her in fear, and she instantly lost balance, causing her to fall off. However, Kufa quickly ran to save her, surprising her. He introduced himself as her new instructor and said they would be spending the next 3 years together. She then bowed to him as she called herself Melita. The following night, Melita headed to the training ground with Kufa, and there, she saw some girls training. Seeing her, one of them, named Nerva, asked her to be her training partner just because she wanted to humiliate her. As they began fighting, Kufa watched from the sidelines and thought about how Melita had not been able to manifest any mana, unlike the others. Actually, everyone born as a noble were expected to activate their mana at a certain age. But because Melita had not shown any signs, she was treated as a useless, talentless nobody. Nerva soon knocked Melita to the ground and mocked her by asking if this ragdoll routine was how she planned to become a knight. The truth was that Melita had always dreamed of joining the Crest Legion and becoming the people's sword of hope, but her inability to use mana only made that a joke. Nerva then told her that her best friend Elise now had a new tutor who was an elite member of the Crest Legion, which meant that, unlike her, Elise could end up joining the Crest Legion and fulfilling her dream in no time. Melita felt betrayed and ran off immediately, while Elise ran after her. But Melita told her to stay away from her and continued running, leaving Elise looking like she had just lost a friend. Kufa gently observed what was going on, and later in his room that night, he began to write a report about his observation. The truth was that Melita's grandfather had doubts about her being a true daughter of the House of Angel because she was weak and had yet to activate her mana. There had been a rumor that Melita's mother had an affair with a different lord, and because of that, Kufa was given a mission to train her into a battle maiden. However, Kufa realized that Melita had no sign of possessing any aptitude, and he concluded that she was not the Night Duke's biological daughter. This meant Kufa had to carry out his second mission, which was to assassinate Melita. Kufa couldn't watch her continue being humiliated despite her belief in her dream and hoped to put her out of her misery. He headed to her room to execute his mission, but found out that her room was empty. Meanwhile, Melita was running for her life from some strange creatures called lycanthropes. Kufa started looking for her and was shocked when he saw Melita being attacked by lycanthropes and wondered how they got here. But then, he remembered that Melita's gramps, Lord Mordrew, constantly tried to pressure her to awaken her mana by forcing her into combat. The lycanthropes began to beat the heck out of her, and as she writhed in pain, Kufa wondered why she wasn't calling for help. One of the monsters grabbed her hair and wanted to do some quick barber work, and she begged, saying her hair was the only thing she used to remember her mom. But she refused to call for help because she wanted to join the ranks of the Crest Legion. Otherwise, no one would acknowledge her as a daughter of the House of Angel. Hearing this, Kufa pitied her again and jumped out to attack the monsters, and after isekaiing them in 2 seconds, he apologized to Melita for coming late. However, she told him she was sorry for troubling him, while then Kufa realized she had always been alone. At that moment, he longed to see her being acknowledged someday and asked for permission to save her. Kufa then asked her if she would entrust him with her life, even though this meant he was also putting his life at stake. He told her that although it was a risky bet, there was only one way to awaken her mana, and if it failed, it could be fatal. When she said she was willing to risk it, he drank a potion and kissed her with it, instantly causing her to fall. Following that, Kufa started a checkup on Melita's body and told her this was necessary since she had weathered out the drug and acquired the ability to use mana. However, there was a chance she had also developed physical abnormalities. While he did, Melita was feeling some tingling in a naughty way and asked him if he wasn't disturbed at all that she was a girl. He replied that he was actually embarrassed, but he needed to do it anyway because he cared about her. He further said that the thought that what he did to her could have caused her bodily harm wouldn't make him sleep at night. All he wanted was for her to remain healthy. Hearing this, Melita removed her hands from her plot and told him he could check wherever he wanted. Just then, Kufa broke the news that, unfortunately, the class she had attained was not the paladin class like she might have wanted. It was samurai, just like him. Surprisingly, Melita didn't feel bad about it and counted it an honor to share the same class with Kufa, and he advised her to keep the matter secret from everyone for the time being. Meanwhile, Kufa hoped that she could become a warrior befitting of the aristocratic house, because this was the only way both of them could survive. Melida became excited that she now had mana, and was also Kufa's pupil, but Bro punctured her excitement when he forbade her from using any mana outside her classes with him until the public tournament, which was 1 week away. At school the next day, while Melida packed her bags to go meet her tutor, Nerva came to bully her again, and she just remained mute. After Nerva and others left, Melida expressed how sad she was to be treated that way, but he told her to bear with whatever her friends do to her, because in a week's time, they would witness a miracle with their very eyes. As they walked on, Kufa suddenly sensed that they were being watched, and he called them out. Elise and a girl appeared, and the girl introduced herself as Rose, Elise's new tutor. Melida was shocked because this was the famous lady who had awakened her mana at an early age despite being born in the lower social stratum. Rose had also been granted the special title of career Marquess by the king. However, she dismissed all of these praises and turned to Kufa, telling him she hoped they would get along well since they were both private tutors. But seeing how loose she was, Kufa turned her down immediately, telling her that being friends with a clown like her would be a bad influence on Melida's education. Rose got angry and told him that her pupil will trash his in the upcoming tournament, before walking away like a Karen. A week later, on the day of the tournament, Melida got scared upon seeing the large crowd. Kufa tried to motivate her, saying she had trained so much for this, but it wasn't helping because she had developed a very low self-esteem from the trolls she had received in the past. A few moments before the tournament, Nerva and her clique appeared and started trolling her again like fools, so Kufa respectfully told her to shut her mouth and get on her way. This made her angry, and she started insulting Kufa. Melida suddenly developed the boldness to confront Nerva, telling her not to talk about her tutor that way. She then promised to demolish Nerva in the tournament, but Nerva was too full of herself and went away laughing. Immediately, Melida got timid again, wondering what she had just done, and Kufa realized that she was willing to show her strength for someone else, not herself. When the tournament was about to start, Melida's teammates were concerned about her, so they told her she didn't have to do anything. However, when the match started, Melida drew her sword, whispering to herself that this was for her instructor. She immediately ran toward Nerva, but Nerva was excited that she got to face her first, and then launched a powerful attack. However, Melida suddenly activated her mana and countered her attack. This shocked everyone, but Kufa was having a proud tutor moment. Nerva got angry at the ridicule and tried attacking Melida again, but Melida moved her backside and crashed her into a wall. Nerva felt very humiliated and unleashed an enormous amount of mana, causing a large crater on the tournament field. Nerva saw Melida sitting like she was scared and started mocking Melida again, thinking she now had an advantage. She was about to unleash her final blow when Melida pointed her sword at her throat and told her that her instructor's attacks were more frightening than her simple tricks. Melida started charging again, wearying Nerva out, but when she attempted to land her final attack to end her for good, her mana suddenly got exhausted, shocking Kufa. Nerva took advantage immediately and started chasing Melida. She soon knocked her down and started some yapping, angry that Melida had finally awakened to mana. She said that Melida should have just remained the way she was, and then she broke Melida's sword before preparing her final attack. Just then, Melida activated her mana again and unleashed a Phantom Blade technique, throwing Nerva off. Kufa was shocked because he had only used this technique once before her and reasoned that she must have learned it and practiced in secret. When the match ended, Melida came running to meet Kufa, and he yanked her into the air like an immature human, praising her for a brilliant fight. Just then, her father appeared and walked past them without acknowledging her, so she called out to him to tell him she won. However, she told him to first prove herself in a fight with another school before getting too excited, which made her sad. Seeing her sad face, Kufa told her to cheer up because this was the first time she got her father to talk to her, so it was a step forward. Just then, Nerva approached her to return the book she had forcefully taken from her, since Melida had no mana. She then apologized and left immediately. In the next match, Melida and her team faced Elise and were stunned by how powerful she was. A few weeks later, Melida told Kufa about an upcoming circlet festival, and when Kufa told her that it sounded like it'd be fun, she asked him if he loved festivals too. However, he replied that he didn't know, and Melida felt bad that she barely knew anything about him, even though he knew so much about her down to the size of her cups. Kufa decided to reveal his background, saying he grew up in the harshest of conditions and the lowest of statuses, so he had never really experienced festivals in his lifetime. He then saw a dress with her, which Melida said was the costume for the festival's parade. He asked her to wear it for him to see, but she said not yet because she and Elise had dreamed about this day for a long time. However, she shyly asked him if he would dance with her during the festival's campfire, but he told her he couldn't because he had to travel to sort out a commitment he had. He promised to return on the festival's final day though, and asked if he would dance with her then, to which she agreed. Meanwhile, at Elise's chambers, her madame complimented her for the fight at the public tournament, but told her she should have given Melida a sound beating to prove that she was the true, legitimate daughter of the aristocratic house. Just then, a maid brought the costume for the festival, which made Elise happy. But when the madam saw the dress, she trashed it immediately, offering to make Elise something better. On the day of the festival, every student wore the same costume except for Elise, who appeared in a different dress, which was more beautiful and elegant. Melida was surprised to see her in this, and some other students started to gossip about her. Elise felt terrible and ran off to cry somewhere because she never wanted to wear this, but was forced to. Melida came to meet her, and while she was trying to console her, some strange men suddenly gathered around them and captured them. Melida woke up in a different place and saw a mummified human. He told her he belonged to an organization called Guild Grimphus, which made her wonder why they were after her. The dude referred to how she used her power in the public tournament the other day, and told her he would forcibly mutate her class to paladin, then he would transplant Elise's powers into her. He further said that the success rate was low though, and she could end up a cripple. Elise woke up at that moment and began to cry, instantly triggering a flashback to when young Melida used to pet her when she was scared. Melida remembered that this was the reason she wanted to become strong, and immediately got into action. She started to hit a dinosaur skeleton displayed nearby until it collapsed, and she made a run for it with Elise. They made it to a weapons section, and while they considered taking the weapons to use, they remembered that their mana had been dampened, and using a natural weapon wouldn't be effective against lycanthropes. However, Melida came up with an idea that Kufa had taught her to create divine weapons from certain materials. Suddenly, some lycanthropes appeared behind them and threw Melida away. Melida got back on her feet and immediately activated the divine weapon she had just made using Kufa's teachings, which she then used to defeat the monsters. She and Elise saw an exit and started running toward it, but the dude crossed them. Melida charged in immediately with her improvised weapon, but her bandage just grabbed the weapon just like you grab your meat.
Oh yes, Daddy!
Stopping the attack. He knocked her off and gave Elise her share also. Now on the ground, Melida relentlessly began to hit Elise's Flamebird's stone on the ground, trying to activate its mana too. Just then, Mr. Bandage saw their eyes and instantly suffered a sting, so he ordered his men that there was a change of plans. They were going to isekai these two here immediately, or they might pose a threat to them in the future. However, when he attempted to eliminate them, Kufa and Rose burst in. The two apologized to the two girls immediately and worked together to defeat the lycanthropes in one sweep. Kufa then told Rose to watch the girls and followed after Mr. Bandage. Kufa told him he had suspected it was him, but Mr. Bandage said it was because Kufa had refused to do his job, making Kufa realize that Lord Mordru was behind this. However, Kufa said he would not let him meddle in Melida's affairs, so Mr. Bandage laughed and instantly summoned a haunted chimera. Kufa and Mr. Bandage started fighting, but Kufa quickly overpowered him. Seeing that he could not defeat Kufa, he attacked him with the chimera and seized his hand with his bandage, making it impossible for Kufa to use his mana. Their bandage tore Kufa's arm off, but Kufa managed to hit the chimera on his way down. Now that Kufa was bleeding, Mr. Bandage told him he no longer had any future as a warrior and asked if Melida was really worth protecting. But Kufa replied that Melida would eventually surpass him and defeat every last fierce fighter around. He added that he didn't mind risking his life to nurture her, and hearing this, Mr. Bandage summoned the chimera and it attacked Kufa. But just while Mr. Bandage left, thinking he had isekai'd him, Kufa suddenly tore his way out of the monster, and then caused it to implode, shocking Mr. Bandage because no human should be able to defeat it. Kufa's hair turned white. He then grabbed his severed arm and rejoined it to his body, instantly making Mr. Bandage realize that Kufa was a vampire. Mr. Bandage wondered what the strongest type of lycanthrope was doing there, but Kufa replied that he was also half-human, just like him. He then said that since Melida exhibited paladin-like powers, it was virtually confirmed that she was a descendant of a Knight Duke house. So he ordered Mr. Bandage to relay this to his client. As he left, Mr. Bandage said that if Kufa trained Melida into an ultimate warrior, he might one day become the hunted, but Kufa replied that when that day came, he would gladly stick out his neck. Back at the enemy's base, this man received Mr. Bandage's report on Melida, and gave a guy called Black Madia the mission to find out what Kufa and Melida were hiding. Black Madia then asked if he should take Kufa down if he turned down the mission. Meanwhile, Kufa met Melita again and asked her to the dance he had promised. Just then, Melita told him she would one day grow to become the kind of woman worthy of him, so she asked him to wait for her. The next day, Elise woke up from a dream where she was almost being attacked by a monster, but Melita quickly came to save her. Afterward, Elise lurked behind Melita in fear, and when Melita asked her why she was doing this, Elise replied that she wanted to stay behind her as her little sister. The school resumed that morning and Elise was basically glued to Melita, just like she had seen in the dream. Meanwhile, their tutors were trailing behind them, with Rose being her usual clingy self and trying to hang on to Kufa too. But he wasn't a simp like you and was having absolutely none of it. He shrugged her off and told her they were supposed to be rivals, not besties, and their clients would probably throw hands if they saw them acting all buddy-buddy, especially Elise's headmaid. They were all heading to the glass castle for some fancy inter-school competition. When everyone gathered in the assembly, Melita asked Elise if she could join her team, but Elise started hesitating like she was being asked to solve world hunger. By the time she finally got her thoughts together, the assembly had already started. The principal dropped the news that they were having a Luna selection tournament, where the top 2 students from both sister schools would duke it out for the title of the Moon Goddess, while the chosen ones got to train for a week like they were preparing for the Olympics. The rest of the peasants had to sit through regular classes like nothing was happening. When the girls from the other school showed up, they did their whole introduction thing, and then the principal revealed the glass monument with the cadets' names. Everyone's jaws basically hit the floor when they saw Melita and Elise's names up there, but the principal still announced them like it was totally normal. The girls managed to shake off their shock and stood in front of everyone, and then the principal told them to pick their dream teams. Melita looked out at all the unfriendly faces staring back at her, and probably wanted to crawl into a hole, but then Nerva stepped up to volunteer for her team along with Shenfa, some third year who was supposed to be the actual candidate. After everyone sorted out their squads, the principal officially kicked off the tournament and threw up a barrier around the campus, basically turning it into a battle royale arena. Later, everyone was gossiping that Melita must have pulled some shady tricks to get her name on that monument, which made her cry and run to Kufa explaining that she was totally innocent. Kufa gave her a hug and told her that even if the whole world decided to be haters, he would always believe in her. Melita and her crew started training under Kufa's guidance, but during a break, she couldn't help thinking about how Elise was basically leagues ahead of her in the power department. That's when some random girl from the other school popped up to chat and said she'd heard all about the Angel sisters. This mysterious girl basically told Melita to demolish Elise in the tournament, to prove she was worthy of the main branch of the Angel family, then vanished into thin air like some kind of ninja. Kufa showed up right after and immediately got sus about the whole situation. That night, Kufa caught Elise's headmaid tiptoeing around campus like she was on some secret mission. When he confronted her, she got all nervous, and he pretended to pick a piece of stained glass off her dress. The maid completely panicked and started babbling about being careful to leave no traces, snitching on herself. Kufa was like, "Gotcha," and called everyone over to expose that the maid had been the one putting names in the glass monument. Instead of being embarrassed, this shameless woman straight up admitted she did it to pit the Angel girls against each other so Elise could humiliate Melita and prove she was superior once and for all. Melita stood up for herself with the usual friendship and feeling speech before promising the maid she'd prove she wasn't inferior to Elise in the tournament. Later, after Kufa tucked Melita into bed, he noticed something fall behind him. It was a black letter, which meant his guild White Knight was trailing. Kufa headed to the forest to meet another guild powerhouse called Black Media, who only communicated through burner letters. Media told him the boss thought his last report was suspicious and wanted to know what he was hiding about Melita. She threatened to unalive Melita if she found anything sketchy, which made Kufa immediately go into attack mode, because nobody threatens his student. Kufa kept going after Media, but she was dodging his strikes. She then drew her sword and told him this was straight-up betrayal, and she was gonna finish it. Kufa replied that he served Melita now and would protect her from everyone, including his own guild. Both of them released their mana and started clashing like this was the final boss fight. Media tried to play mind games with Kufa, but plot twist. Rose came flying in after hearing all the commotion. She saw Kufa fighting some suspicious stranger and decided to jump in because that's what chaotic good characters do. Rose started throwing her discs at Media, who blocked them, then pulled out a literal Glock and started shooting, before whipping out a third weapon. Rose was shook at how this girl had more weapons than a military arsenal. But then Media declared she was about to end them both. Just then, a whole crowd showed up following the sound of the battle, and since Media couldn't allow herself to be seen, she yeeted herself out of there immediately. As she left, she told Kufa she was the shadow and would always be behind him. Rose asked who that psycho was, and Kufa explained that her class was Clone, a class who could copy the abilities of all 7 basic mana classes, and that she was probably the strongest clone in the whole of Flandor. Meanwhile, Elise visited Melita and dropped the bombshell that she planned to throw the match on purpose so everyone would finally acknowledge Melita. Melita was shocked and wondered why she was doing this, but Elise coldly said that she was not doing it because of her but for herself, which made Melita sad because nothing else was more humiliating. When Elise stepped out of the room, she revealed that she was doing this because she wanted to stay being her little sister forever. Meanwhile, Kufa and Rose went to inform to the principal about Black Media and asked her to cancel the tournament, but she basically told them the decision's already been made and there was no going back. The next day, Rose spotted Elise eating breakfast all alone and asked if something had gone down between the sisters. Elise stayed quiet, but her headmaid immediately started going off about how Melita was inferior to Elise. Meanwhile, Melita had some other friends who sat next to her, claiming it was just because the seat was empty. Shenfa also joined the squad, making the whole mood way more cheerful. The days flew by with the girls doing the usual study-train-bond combo, and the night before the big trial, Kufa showed up in Melita's room with his milk to give her strength. She told him his milk was very tasty as she gulped it up. Kufa then asked if anything had happened between her and Elise, so Melita spilled the tea about how her sister wanted to throw the match on purpose. She explained that ever since they were little, Elise had been obsessed with her and always looked up to her, but now Melita was worried she hadn't been the right kind of role model. Kufa told her to stop overthinking and just share her feelings with Elise the next time they met. The next day rolled around, and it was showtime. The principal announced that this would be a battle royale between the 4 candidates and their teams, and they had to yoink their opponent's pins to win. All 4 teams took their positions, but Kufa dipped after wishing his student good luck because he planned to use this opportunity to deal with Black Media. Melita and her crew walked forward and faced the Glass Guardians, who only let them into the Glass Castle after they showed their mana. They entered the assembly hall, where a sniper from Elise's team immediately fired a warning shot at them. Another one of Elise's teammates tried a sneak attack from behind, but Nerva blocked it like a boss. Elise stepped forward, and Shenfa and Nerva told Melita to handle her sister while they dealt with the rest of the squad. Melita followed Elise to the central hallway, where they both activated their mana and started clashing. Melita asked Elise to reveal what she really felt about her, but Elise pushed her away and claimed that Melita was the weaker one. She said she'd always avoided fighting her because she didn't want to discover how weak her sister truly was. She attacked, but Melita dodged, and then Elise declared that she was totally fine being a subordinate because she always wanted to stay below her sister. She could not put up with knowing that she was way stronger than Melita, so she could not stay behind her. Melita was relieved to hear this confession, but just as Elise was about to land the finishing blow, Melita blocked the attack and promised to absolutely demolish her. Both girls prepared their ultimate attacks, with Elise claiming Melita couldn't win in 100 years. But shockingly, Melita cut Elise's sword and told her to repeat what she just said. Elise started shivering as Melita turned her into a human punching bag, pinned her to the ground, and declared that she would be the stronger older sister no matter what. She started crying and asked Elise to rely on her, leading to the most emotional sister reconciliation moment ever. Just then, Nerva showed up, acting strange, and commented that it would be a real shame if someone ruined their wholesome moment. Meanwhile, Kufa had tracked down the mysterious girl who had visited Melita earlier. He suspected she was Media in disguise and asked her to hand over whatever evidence she'd collected about Melita. When the girl refused, Kufa cut her bag and pinned her to the wall. But jokes were on him because this girl liked to be pinned and told him to do whatever he pleased.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
However, Kufa was a master over his sausage, so he attacked her instead, but the girl blocked his attack with her sword and some dark mana, forcing Kufa to back off. He realized she had the power to absorb enemy mana, which was way beyond what Media could imitate. He knelt before her immediately and asked for her name, to which the girl replied that her name was Mul, daughter of one of the 3 great noble families and wielder of the Diabolos class. Kufa apologized and yeeted himself out of there. However, Mule was disappointed he didn't have his way with her, but relieved her stuff was still safe. Kufa rushed back to the glass castle, realizing he'd messed up from the start because Media had to be near Melita. And he was right, because Media had been disguising herself as Nerva this whole time, and Melita figured it out when she noticed her mana was different. Media transformed into her real self and created a massive explosion that sent the glass palace crumbling. Melita and Elise started running for their lives, but Medea attacked from behind. Determined to protect Elise, Melita faced Medea head-on, but this psycho easily overpowered her and pushed her into a corner. As Medea prepared to send them both to the Shadow Realm, the Glass Guardians labeled her an intruder and tried to intercept her. However, she broke their swords like they were made of paper and lunged to finish the girls. But Kufa arrived just in time to save them. Rose showed up shortly after, but Kufa didn't need backup, and he soon pushed Medea outside and disarmed her, cutting through her robe to reveal she was just an ordinary girl underneath all that edgelord energy. Medea, feeling embarrassed, said she couldn't return to the guild like this, so Kufa gave her a supplementary report to deliver to Papa or whoever the heck that was. Afterward, Keira was unanimously crowned the Moon Goddess for some useless reasons. Then the real Nerva was later found unconscious in the forest. The whole incident with Medea got swept under the rug, but Kufa became suspicious about the headmaid, who couldn't use mana and therefore shouldn't have been able to enter the glass castle in the first place. So he wondered who let her in. Meanwhile, Mule and Sala, one of the cadets, were discussing the tournament when Mule mentioned that she had a mana analyzer in her bag that had collected data on all the girls, and she wanted to analyze Melita's mana specifically to gift it to Sala's elder brother, the leader of the Shixel's family. Later, Melita told Elise that she was creating a new unit with herself as the leader and invited Elise to join the unit. Elise happily accepted, and the two sisters embraced each other. The next night, all the girls gathered for an unofficial party to mark the end of the Luna Selection Tournament. The girls from both schools were present, and after yapping and making a toast, Melita, Elise, Sala, and Mule sat together around a table. Melita mentioned that she wasn't aware that there was always an unofficial party after the tournament. Just then, Keira approached them with a bottle of wine and refilled both Elise and Melita's glasses. She told them that she couldn't call her win a true victory because it wasn't a show of praise for her actual ability, and assured them that she would show them who the boss really was in the next tournament, so that they'd not be able to deny it. However, Mule told her to drop the Shakespeare talk because she might as well get clapped so hard if she faced them. When Keira left, Melita wondered how the next year's tournament would be. But Elise assured her that no matter what situation they found themselves in, she would do well to support her, making Melita excited. However, Mule told them that there was no use talking about next year at that time. Right now, they were only supposed to enjoy the moment. She suggested that they talk about the love of their lives, but soon realized that they were all as single as a dollar bill. So Mule decided to tell them a story of a famous city known as the City of Water. Many years ago, there was a husband and wife who had just moved to the city to seek a fresh start after fleeing their old city. However, the people of the city were race-biased and treated them poorly. The husband, who couldn't get a stable job, became resentful and turned his wife into a punching bag. But his wife never filed for a divorce. He eventually lost his mind and unalived his wife, after which he ripped out her heart. Realizing what he had done, he ran off with the heart still in his hand, but he soon stumbled and tripped, causing the heart to fall out of his hand. Shockingly, the heart spoke to him, asking if she was hurt, and it was at that moment that the man realized that his wife had really loved him. The man felt sorry and threw himself into the river, leading to his death. But the tale didn't end there. The man set off to Nirvana with his wife's heart, but the body of the wife, whose heart was ripped out, remained abandoned. This body harbored a deep-seated grudge and started going around the city searching for her heart. She would later be called the Grey Witch and was known for attacking pretty young women and cropping their hearts out. Elise passed out instantly from fear, and Melita asked if this was just a fairy tale because there was no way a heart could talk. However, Mule replied that there had been recent cases of murder in which it was said that the victims had their hearts ripped out. Just then, the candle lights suddenly went off and everyone began to panic. While they wondered what was happening, a strange figure appeared. It's the Grey Witch. She immediately began to attack and soon approached Melita, but Melita threw a shawl to block the witch's sight, allowing the girls to escape. Melita and her group managed to get to a waterway, so they considered returning to their dorm. Meanwhile, Mule, the storyteller, couldn't believe that this was happening. Just then, Melita stepped on a squishy substance that felt like the entrails of a human skin, and they all became scared. As they started running, they stepped on more entrails, making them more scared. After a while of running in fear, they took a breather, and the squishy fluid started dropping on them from above, which made Melita embarrassed as she thought of Kufa seeing her in this naughty state. They took to their heels again, and a few minutes later, the Grey Witch reappeared, making them wonder if she had wiped out the other girls. Sala took the courage and stepped forward to fight the witch, but the idiot hit a pillar like a confused fly. Melita stepped forward to use her phantom blade, but the Grey Witch neutralized the attack in one swing. Realizing they could not defeat it, they turned back and ran with all their strength while the witch chased after them. Melita thought that they just needed to get out of the waterway and to the dorm so Kufa could save them. Getting out, they saw Kufa standing afar and tried to run to him, but Kufa started acting strange, telling them he was searching for something. He lifted up his lamp to show his mouth dripping with blood like a vampire. He then said he was looking for his ripped-out heart, scaring them. Afterward, he gathered them in his room and revealed it was tomato sauce as he cleaned his mouth. He revealed that the tutors had heard about the unofficial party, which was against the academy rules, and he made a plan with Rose to pull a prank on them. Rose was the Grey Witch. They then asked what the squishy substances in the water were, and Kufa revealed that it was a pixie gem. They realized that it was he who made the fluids rain down on them earlier, and got mad with him for doing something so naughty. Their legs soon grew weak, and they collapsed to the ground, so they had to sleep in his room that night to make him take responsibility for scaring them like that. One day, Melita woke up from her sleep only to find her teacher holding his long stick over her face. He complimented her, saying she was becoming more aware of her surroundings even while sleeping. But Melita wasn't having it, because Kufa was running a 24/7 training schedule. Then he asked her to get ready because it was time for their school trip. As they headed out, Melita roasted him non-stop about invading her personal space, but Kufa wasn't even flinching. Out of nowhere, his superior passed by him and secretly handed him a vial of sketchy medicine and told him to use it carefully. Just then, Elise and Rose joined them. Rose immediately fumbled the bag of dignity and begged Kufa to marry her on the spot. The girls were shocked at her desperation, so Rose explained that her dad had already chosen a husband for her. She panicked and told him she had a lover, and Kufa was the only candidate who could fake the role. Kufa agreed, while Melita stood there fuming like someone had just replaced her. Rose wasted no time and clung to Kufa like duct tape, calling him cringy pet names. Seeing this, Melita got so jealous that she grabbed his arm too. Right then, the school director popped up and went full Karen mode on seeing them. She dragged Rose and Melita for acting indecently, and then smiled politely at Elise, saying she was not like her useless half-sister Melita. Before the awkwardness could settle, a flashy carriage rolled up, and Lord Prickett, who turned out to be Rose's adoptive father, stepped out, ready to embarrass her as usual. Inside the academy, he bragged about being a genetic engineering expert and casually announced that he planned to hold Rose's wedding during this trip. Rose shut him down instantly by declaring Kufa as her boyfriend. Prickett was about to trash-talk him, but froze when he recognized Kufa's face as someone he had seen before who had died. Apparently, years ago, there had been a massacre led by a young boy with the same face as Kufa. Everyone went stiff with Kufa, looking like he knew what he was talking about, but the principal brushed it off and ordered the group to keep moving. Just then, Kufa told Melita he'd skip the assembly because he wasn't feeling well. She worried about the insults he'd taken, but he told her he only cared about what she thought about him. Later, during the assembly, she remained worried about Kufa and eventually ditched the assembly to check on him. On her way, she ran into Media, now in full teacher disguise, but still feeling terrible about being a teacher because of some useless mission. Melita suddenly heard creepy voices screaming curses on the infernal fire blue Ice King and froze, but Media heard nothing. Their suspense got cut short by a scream from the assembly. When they rushed back, they discovered that a girl had collapsed. Kufa arrived too, and Lord Prickett decided this was the perfect time to show off his newest invention. He sprayed a potion into a nearby fire, and it instantly spread a mist across the room, and the fire turned blue. He then declared the culprit had this kind of mana, and was in his early 20s, causing all eyes to turn to Kufa, but he said he had no way to defend himself now. Even with suspicion, the school trip continued, and on the train, Melita was still worried about Kufa, while Lord Prickett bragged about his region's spooky aurora and endless thunder like it was some tourist attraction. Later, while he lectured about plants, Melita couldn't stop staring at Kufa. She heard the strange voice again and traced it to a boulder, but Kufa stopped her before she touched it, asking if she was tired of the boring lecture. Prickett soon approached them and explained it was a mystery spot caused by magnetic fields and ordered them to step back. Soon, they were dragged into town, where another victim had fallen to a disease that turned people into brainless berserkers. Prickett declared the man beyond saving and had him executed on the spot, traumatizing the students. Even the principal scolded him, but Prickett defended himself by calling it salvation for the person involved. Rose dragged Kufa to a church like she was about to confess her sins, but instead, she hit him with the question of why he even agreed to help her in the first place. Kufa stood there looking like his brain just blue-screened, but before he could answer, a squad of youngins ran up to Rose. She told him these little rascals were all orphans her father had adopted, just like he picked her up off the streets. Later that day, Kufa returned to the lodge only to find Melida in full toxic girlfriend mode. She was big mad and ordered him to put her socks on.
You naughty, naughty.
Then threw in the jab that since he didn't even see her as a proper girl, he might as well help her change her clothes too.
Whoa, calm down, Jamal.
Kufa wasn't falling for the bait, though instead, he flipped the whole script and casually asked if she wanted to go on a date. That one line turned her from an angry princess to a clingy puppy real quick. She latched onto him as they wandered through the underground tunnels of the city, and eventually, they got to a hidden limestone cave. Just when Melida thought the sightseeing tour was over, Kufa yeeted them both off a cliff, and they started floating like astronauts in zero gravity. Kufa explained that the whole thing was caused by strong magnetic forces in the area. But Melida asked how he knew so much about this mystery spot. He replied that he'd been here before on some secret mission. When they got back to the lodge later that night, Kufa tucked her in like a dad putting his youngin to bed. But Melida softened up and apologized for being dramatic earlier. She admitted she just didn't want anyone else getting too close to him and mumbled that he should take her on another date sometime before sleeping. Kufa brushed her hair aside and whispered that she was the first person to feel this way toward him, which was why he didn't know what to do. Later that night, Melida found herself in a creepy dream, standing in total darkness and calling out for her tutor. Suddenly, a sinister voice said that it wanted blood, and she shot awake in a cold sweat. Before she could even breathe, Elise barged into her room, panicking that another victim had been clapped by the blue flame mana criminal. Melida froze, and her fear doubled when she realized Kufa was nowhere to be found. The girls rushed to the church where the attack had taken place, only to find Lord Prickett already in tears, crying over the youngins from his orphanage. The principal checked them and announced that their life force had been sucked out, just like the student who had fainted earlier. Everyone turned to Melida, asking what her tutor thought of this, but she nervously admitted that Kufa had been missing since morning. That was all Lord Prickett needed to hear to go full detective mode, and without hesitation, he declared that Kufa was the culprit. He ordered his men to track him down and bring him in immediately. Following that, the principal began leading the girls back to the academy. But Melida slipped away to search for Kufa herself. However, she suddenly ran into Medea. Medea smirked, easily guessing that Melida was about to risk it all to defend her tutor, calling it a dumb but adventurous idea. For some reason, she decided to join her little escapade. Back in her room, Medea started stripping, and while at it, she explained that Kufa had warned her about the growing number of mystery spots in the city and had even asked her to keep an eye on Melida. Something ever happened to him. Medea threw on a school uniform to blend in better, and afterward, they headed into the city to start gathering intel about the mystery spots. Clueless Melida bluntly asked some strangers questions about the mystery spots, but ended up getting scolded and handed candy as pity compensation. Medea sighed, saying this wasn't how it was done, and dragged her to a flower shop. There, she charmed the flower lady by complimenting her flowers and casually bringing up Lord Prickett's role in researching mystery spots. Since the lady happened to be a fan of the man, she spilled all the information Medea needed. Smooth as butter, Medea got everything, and soon they were on their way to the most notorious mystery spot in the city, the Cookhouse. When they entered the Cookhouse, Melida expected curses and ghosts, but the place felt underwhelming. Medea, however, immediately noticed the building wasn't a result of an accident, but was deliberately built crooked from the ground up. She started poking around and uncovered a hidden door leading to a staircase. But before they went in, she warned Melida that anything could happen down there and ordered her to stay close. They soon reached the underground dungeon and found what looked like a villain's secret lab. There were abandoned research stations, cages big enough for humans, and the worst part was the dead bodies chained in cages. Medea had examined them and pointed out that they looked like Shangarda citizens. She then explained that these were failed products of illegal experimentation with the night gene factor, an attempt to transform humans into lycanthropes. Just then, Medea noticed that one corpse was wearing the exact same accessory as the man they had witnessed die earlier, and concluded that Lord Prickett himself was behind everything, spreading fake news about mystery spots and illnesses so he could abduct and experiment on more people. Before Melida could even recover from that revelation, the creepy voice invaded her head again, demanding she isekai someone and show in blood. She clutched her head in pain as the migraine hit, and immediately figured that this meant that another victim was about to fall. She ran outside and ended up at the scene of the latest accident, where people were screaming that a student had been unalived. When she entered, her whole world collapsed as Elise was lying unconscious on the floor, while Lord Prickett was clutching Rose's lifeless body, sobbing that she was dead. Even the principal looked defeated as she explained that Melita hadn't shown up for training, so Elise had gone to find her. Naturally, Rose followed her student, and that was when they were both attacked by someone powerful enough to strike down even Rose. One idiot immediately started shouting that Kufa must be the culprit, and rallying the townsfolk to hunt him down. Lord Prickett, still holding Rose's body, then announced that he could save her through the power of science. Melita, devastated and speechless, carried Elise back to her room. Maidiev showed up later, remarking that only someone ridiculously strong could defeat a paladin like Elise and a veteran like Rose together. A few moments later, when Melita was alone with Elise, she apologized, blaming herself for everything. She then clutched Elise's sword and asked Elise to lend her strength. At that moment, Shenfa burst into the room to tell Melita to escape because Lord Prickett had just been attacked, and Rose's body had been stolen by the same unknown blue flame mana dude, so the townfolk were angry and sought to capture Melita to use her as bait to lure Kufa. Melita climbed out of the window immediately, and as she escaped, she vowed to clear Kufa's name, avenge Elise and Rose, and uncover the truth. She returned to the boulder where she had once heard the mysterious voice, and remembered how both Kufa and Lord Prickett had tried to keep her away from it. Convinced it was hiding something, she blasted it open with her mana and found a secret tunnel. At the bottom of the tunnel, she found a study filled with documents and scrolls, and one bore Lord Prickett's own signature. As she looked through, she uncovered years of experimentation on the night gene factor, which was basically extracted from lycanthropes and transplanted into humans. And 7 years ago, Lord Prickett had made his greatest mistake during an experiment. As she processed this, the sinister voice but Melita drew her sword and declared herself a paladin, demanding he reveal himself, but the voice only laughed and told her he would be his next test subject. Suddenly, Rose appeared. She was alive, but her hair had changed, and a terrifying blue flame flickered in her left eye. Melita called out to her in relief, but Rose looked back at her with hunger in her eyes and demanded her blood like a vampire fresh out of rehab. The creepy voice urged Rose to feast on Kufa's student immediately, and Rose lunged forward like a predator. But before she could get to Melita, Kufa stormed in and tried to get Rose back to her senses, but the voice identified him as the Ice King. Kufa ignored, revealing his true power as he restrained her, and he insisted that Rose wasn't a creature of darkness anymore, so she could resist using her human memories of her loved ones. But his words didn't reach her. She tore free and fled into the shadows, while the mysterious voice laughed, revealing that Rose had been thirsty for blood for 7 years straight. The creepy voice declared that she'd finally lose herself to her instincts and become his loyal underling, and Kufa looked disappointed. Afterward, he pinned Melita to the ground and told her he would seal her memories of him. But Melita panicked immediately, insisting she didn't want that. But Kufa tried to reassure her, saying even if she forgot him, he would still remain her private tutor. He confessed that no one had ever accepted him in this form, and the look she was giving him right now scared him. He even apologized, admitting that erasing her memories was only because of his ego. However, Melita used his lines back on him, promising to stay by his side no matter what the world said. She then hugged him and kissed him before confessing that she loved him, shocking Kufa, who immediately warned her that he was a half-lycanthrope, her natural-born enemy. He then went on to reveal his entire tragic backstory. 8 years ago in this same town, the orphanage where he lived with other orphans burned down because of Lord Prickett's illegal night gene experiments. It happened that Lord Prickett was working hand-in-hand with a giant spider that devoured humans and forced him to keep experimenting. However, Kufa, who had died in the fire, suddenly rose up with glowing white hair, shocking the spider. The creature mocked the church for sheltering a half-vampire in secret. But Kufa wasn't listening. He went over to Rose immediately and drank her blood, turning her into a vampire like himself. Right then, warriors from the White Knight Guild barged in to fight the spider, but the beast was way stronger and quickly tore through them. Just then, Kufa leaped up and clawed out its eyes, creating an opening for the soldier, who immediately blasted holes in the spider's belly and finished it off with a powerful bullet that launched it sky high. The soldier then noticed Kufa crouched over Rose and demanded to know what he was doing. Kufa explained that he wanted to seal Rose's memories of him to suppress her bloodlust, so she could continue living as a normal girl. He begged the man to spare her life, promising that he'd take responsibility and keep her under control, even if it meant becoming the soldier's underling. The soldier asked if Kufa was really okay with the girl forgetting him, and with tears in his eyes, Kufa said he would accept it, as long as Rose could be happy. Back in the present, Kufa made Melida promise never to reveal this, warning her that if she did, he'd suck her blood dry. However, Melida was already feeling naughty, but she swore that she would keep his secret. At that moment, Kufa realized that the same lycanthrope spider that had attacked the orphanage years ago was the culprit behind the recent incidents. Somehow, it had survived and was now working with Lord Prickett again. He believed Lord Prickett wanted power, which was why he had arranged a fiancé for Rose, planning to turn her into a baby-making machine to produce mana users. Melida was furious at this, and Kufa told her he needed her help in order to fix this. Following that, Rose recovered, but before she could even get her bearings, Lord Prickett forced her into a wedding with some random fiancé. Just as the vows were about to be sealed, Melida stormed into the church and said the marriage could not happen because Rose was her rival for Kufa's love, and she would not let her back down that easily without a fight. However, Rose didn't understand what she was saying until Melida yelled that she had already kissed Kufa and was ready to clap. Rose drew her weapons immediately to challenge Melida, and when she attacked, Melida countered with a flaming strike, but she missed and set Lord Prickett on fire instead. As Lord Prickett screamed, a small spider crawled out of his body and transformed into a human form. He introduced himself as Manhwa and said it was over for Melida, but she wasn't intimidated and revealed that he was the lycanthrope behind all of this. Manhwa smirked, admitting he had underestimated her, then blew everyone away with his power before escaping through a hidden door. Rose chased him, remembering how he had manipulated her into attacking the academy, the orphans, and even Elise. But when he had ordered her to drink Elise's blood, she had resisted, which made Manhwa furious, and he tried to isekai her. Rose confronted him, but he soon overpowered her and almost destroyed her when Kufa appeared just in time, kicking Manhwa away and telling him to stay away from his sister. He then urged Rose to awaken fully, and her vampire powers got activated immediately. They swore to defeat Manhwa together, but he wasn't phased and transformed into his true form. They got into an intense fight immediately, and with their combined attacks, Kufa and Rose blasted Manhwa into the mystery spot with zero gravity, leaving him suspended midair. Kufa then lunged forward and charged a punch that impaled him against a jagged rock. Manhwa's body crumbled, but instead of dying, he split into millions of tiny spiders and slithered into the ground, promising he would return. Manhwa emerged inside the church tunnel, only to find Melida and the other girls waiting like an exterminator squad. They sliced through the tiny spiders while Manhwa shrieked, begging them to stop. Outside, Rose hugged Kufa tightly, claiming her memories of him had finally returned. But instead of celebrating, Kufa tapped Rose's bite marks, immobilizing her immediately. He then told her her memories would be sealed again because it was the only way she could live safely in society. Rose begged him not to, saying she just wanted to be with her big brother, but Kufa reassured her, promising that he would always watch over her before sealing her memories once more. Meanwhile, Lord Prickett was wailing over his dying wife, because with Manhwa gone, she was now turning into a lycanthrope. Kufa appeared and realized this must have been Lord Prickett's reason for dealing with the spider all along. Lord Prickett broke down, admitting he had no choice, and Kufa decided to use a vial of medicine that could turn a partial lycanthrope back into a human because Lord Prickett had once saved him and his mom when they were homeless. And after saving the wife, Kufa walked away, bidding farewell to his adoptive father. Afterwards, rumors spread that Lord Prickett had confessed everything and turned himself in. On their way back from Shangarda, Kufa was sitting thinking about everything when Rose suddenly said he wondered why her memories of the town felt incomplete, but he told her not to force it. She then revealed a dream she had always had, to meet someone important, whom she couldn't remember clearly, but had spent precious time with when she was young. She confessed that she had joined the Crest Legion to become famous, so that the person might eventually find her. Following this, classes resumed at the academy, and the principal announced that before the year wrapped, the students would face one final event called the Vibria Goat Exam. Melida and Elise wondered what that was, and Kufa explained that it wasn't livestock, but the legendary labyrinth lying beneath their settlement, containing the biggest library in human history. The exam was brutal, but anyone who cleared it got a librarian license, basically a golden ticket to dive into the Vibria Goat Library and uncover lost knowledge. However, only the second-year students and above could apply. But then the principal herself strolled in and casually asked if the two girls wanted to take the exam this year. Kufa tried to protest since they were still first years, but the principal told him that since they'd been chosen as Luna cadets before, it would be great to prove that it was a mistake. Meanwhile, Mule and Sala presented their report from the Luna tournament to their academy and noble faction. Mule spun the story that Melida's mana felt completely different from Elise's, which proved her mom had been mingling with other men. Everyone gasped like it was breaking gossip, and Sala's older brother immediately suggested they announce Melida's illegitimacy to all of noble society. Everyone agreed instantly, and Sala's brother said they needed to find a way to convince the public. Just then, Mule smirked and pulled out an ancient text called the Anders Codex, found in Vibria Goat itself. She said they could use it to prove Melida's origins, and hearing this, Sala's brother declared that with this book, they'd not only topple the Angel house, but start a revolution and rule the world. After the meeting, Sala quietly worried about Melida, but her brother reassured her with his hypocritical speech about doing it all for Melida's good. He claimed Melida was surrounded by too many looming threats and needed to be put out of her misery. Sala, gullible as ever, believed him, and to seal the manipulation, her brother handed her a special fountain pen once wielded by a Vibria Goat librarian, wishing that it would give her courage. Back at the academy, Melida and Kufa walked straight into a commotion. A masked man had shown up, saying he was there to meet his daughter. When he saw Melida, he rushed at her, claiming she was his daughter, shocking her. The masked man shouted that the Angels were demons who had taken his woman and daughter from him, and he was here to claim her back. He tried approaching Melida, but Kufa immediately swung his sword to block him, causing him to retreat and vanish, leaving Melida trembling and humiliated. That night, Kufa received a coded warning about Melida being in danger. He scribbled a cryptic response and then went for Melida's routine body checkup. But he was clearly distracted. Melida asked if he was still worried about that morning's drama, and he admitted he was, saying he had always feared that people would start spreading rumors if they learned the truth about her mana class. He figured the masked man only showed up to slander the Angel family, and Melida agreed, insisting the man had no link to her mom. However, Kufa warned that their enemies would keep playing different tricks, prompting Melida to ask if there was anything she could do. Kufa told her he had an assignment for her, which was to take the Vibria Goat exam seriously and pass it. Melida immediately freaked out and reminded him that the exam was known for being deadly. But Kufa insisted that if she passed, it would silence the haters and prove her worth to everyone. She asked what would happen if she failed, and the sneaky degenerate told her he would punish her in a special way. She got freaky and told her she wanted a reward too if she succeeded, and Kufa smiled knowing she was a bad girl. Following that, the exam day arrived and Melida and Elise, along with other girls, followed the principal to the labyrinth gate, looking nervous but determined to pass. However, Kufa told them to chill. They soon reached a magical elevator platform, and Melida wouldn't leave Kufa's hand until the very last second before the doors shut. As the platform began descending, the principal gave her briefing and told them they needed to complete missions before time ran out. She warned them that the ghosts of past librarians haunted the labyrinth, and that they should avoid the lower layers of the labyrinth, because the ghosts there were working overtime for free. Just then, the elevator suddenly jolted to a stop, and slimy tentacles burst out from the walls, tearing through the platform and attacking the students. Meanwhile, outside the library, Kufa and Rose were waiting when a nun arrived in a panic. She announced that an important guest had shown up, and since the principal wasn't around, Kufa had to greet him. Kufa asked who it was, and when she said Duke Felgus, Melida's official father, he almost choked. He went to meet Felgus, who immediately demanded that Melida be withdrawn from the exam since he had planned to withdraw her from the academy. Kufa tried to reason with him, saying the girls had entered the exam to prove themselves, but Felgus countered by mentioning the masked man who had claimed he was her father. He said that putting Melida in public view was too dangerous and could hurt the Angel's family reputation. Kufa pushed back, begging for one more year to prove Melida's potential, but Felgus dismissed it, saying she didn't even understand her own abilities. However, Kufa said he knew his student best and just wanted one chance, so Felgus paused to consider. At that exact moment, another nun rushed in with a letter sealed by a snake crest. Felgus instantly recognized it as coming from Guild Grimfus, and when he opened the letter, it hinted that the girls in the labyrinth were in danger, shocking everyone. Down in Vibria Goat, the tentacles had dragged Melida and Elise to an unknown floor, completely separating them from the others. They worried about their classmates, but Elise noticed their hourglass had started working, which meant their test had officially started. However, before they could plan anything, the ghosts of dead librarians suddenly appeared and attacked. The girls activated their mana and fought back desperately, with Melida mimicking the skills Kufa had taught her. They soon eliminated all the ghosts, and the two girls high-fived for their victory. But Elise jinxed them by pointing out their weapons were already worn down after just one fight, and she doubted they could handle more than 2 ghosts at once. The dungeon gods said gotcha, and suddenly, multiple ghosts appeared out of nowhere, surrounding them. The girls froze in fear as the ghosts closed in on them, but before the ghosts could strike, a sudden whirlwind swept through, wiping them all out instantly. Melida looked up in awe, only to see that Mule and Sala had come to save them. Mule and Sala pretended to be taking the librarian certification too, and asked them all to partner together in passing the test. Just then, Mule brought out a strange book, which revealed the map of the labyrinth, and made them realize they were on the second layer. Melida got curious and asked what book that was, and Mule revealed that it was a magical text that had the ability to inform the user of their current location within the labyrinth. Mule added that it was an asset of the Vibria goat, but there was a limit to how many times it could be used, so they would have to be careful in using it. A few moments later, Mule took a book from the Vibria goat's shelf and gave it to Melida to read, but it felt like Greek to her, so Mule explained that one could not tell the effect of a magical text until they held the corresponding grade of librarian qualification. However, there was still a way to use it. Meanwhile, Elise wondered how Mule seemed to be so knowledgeable about the books, even though this was also her first time taking the exam. But Sala replied that Mule came from a family of Vibria goat researchers. Mule then urged Melida to try using the book, and when Melida uttered the incantation, they suddenly changed into a different costume from tales in ancient times, with Sala endowed with juicy mommy milkers. The other girls got jealous and decided to get their hands busy with its softness until they returned to their usual appearance. Following that, they headed to a different layer, which Mule identified as where the exam was held. They opened a book and asked them if they were ready for the exam, and when they said yes, they were given a task to mend and carefully arrange all the books present in the room. Just then, a little creature appeared from one of the books, and Mule told them this was the Boar Imp, a demon known for eating through books, and if they eliminated them, the books would be mended back to their original forms. Hearing this, Melida told them she got it, and slew the creature in a sweep. However, several other little demons appeared, so Melida told them to arrange the books while he handled the little monsters. The other girls quickly got to taking the books to the shelves, but the books were ejected as soon as they placed them, making Mule realize that it was a puzzle they needed to solve because each book had its respective location it could fit into. Mule used all her brain cells and soon deciphered it, so she began to guide the others to where to insert the books, while Melida continued handing the dirty work. The books reduced quickly until the final one, and seeing its location was up above, they all worked together as Melida leaped into the air and dunked the book in its proper place. They were all excited for their victory, and while they rejoiced, a book suddenly appeared in a section of the shelves. Checking them, they realized that this was their proof of passing the exam, and they just needed to return, with plenty of time still left. Meanwhile, Mule got curious and asked why Melida and Elise were bent on passing the exam, and Melida revealed that it was because she wanted to be acknowledged as a legitimate daughter of the House of Angel. Mule asked if passing the exam really proved that she was legitimate, and sensing the scorn in her voice, Elise stepped up to protect her sister from the trash. They thought of leaving, but being uncomfortable with the whole plan, Sala took the book from Melida. Mule got furious and asked her to return the book to its rightful owner. It was then that Sala revealed that the exam was a trap. Meanwhile, in a different layer of the labyrinth, the principal rejoined with the other students, and they asked her what the heck had happened earlier. She revealed that one of the magical books had caused an illusion that threw them into deeper parts of the labyrinth. The students asked why this happened, but she replied that they could save the investigation for later. Right now, they needed to be more concerned about getting back to the academy. At that moment, some zombie-looking dudes appeared and told them that no one was getting out alive. However, they quickly sent those dudes to the underworld. But then this eerie red-eyed Gramps appeared and introduced himself as Credol, an apostle of Guild Grimphus. The principal was shocked and asked what did Sapel of Guild Grimphus wanted with the innocent students, but Credol wasn't in for too much talking, so he summoned his army of the undead to attack them. The principal fought to protect her students, but she soon got stabbed in the process. However, she counted it an honor to die protecting them, and while the undead were about to isekai her, Kufa brushed through lightning speed. Credol was shocked and summoned more of his men, but Kufa swept through them and finally cut Crudol into several subsections. Meanwhile, the headmistress collapsed and told Kufa to take care of the students. Some gullible students came to beg, saying that they were the ones who read the magical book that caused the illusion in the elevator, as instructed by one of their fathers. Crudol suddenly arose again, but now as the undead king, and he prepared to summon his great army again, scaring the girls. Meanwhile, at Melida's location, police confirmed that it was a different exam they had taken. Just then, some ghost appeared again, and Mule snatched the book from Sala to check what was in it, only to find out that Melida's class was samurai. Mule said she would show this to Sala's older brother and escaped immediately, while Elise, Sala, and Melida prepared to chase her. At the same time, Kufa started running with the others, but the undead king's attacks soon got overwhelming, so he considered changing to his vampire form, but he stopped when he realized that he would not be able to stay beside Melida anymore if he did. The undead king attacked again, but Mr. Bandage appeared just in time to save them. He then grabbed the undead king with his bandages, making it unable to use its powers. Mr. Bandage finally sapped the monster away, and Kufa thanked him for rescuing them. After averting the crisis, Mr. Bandage told Kufa that there was an ongoing fight in the academy, shocking Kufa. He revealed that the guild Grimfus had caused the trouble in the labyrinth to distract Kufa, so they could attack all the students of the academy, while he was away saving Melida. Kufa's boss appeared at that moment, and Mr. Bandage bargained that he would act as a spy and give him intel on the criminal activities if Lord Kufa shared the results of his research on how to turn a lycanthrope back into a human. Meanwhile, Kufa interrupted and asked his boss why he was there, and he revealed that there had been an unusual activity happening at the two gates leading to the Vibria goat. One of the gates was managed by Mordru and the other by the Shixels. Kufa's boss then told him to go handle it, because he was the only one who could. Kufa headed there immediately, wondering what the Shixels family were after. At the same time, Melida finally caught Mule, and her books poured out of her bag. When Melida asked her why she was doing this, Mule said it was because she loved her, and then said an incantation that immediately activated the spilled books around them, causing a bright purple light. Melida opened her eyes and realized she wasn't in the library anymore, but was now standing in a misty void wearing a maid's outfit. Mule popped up with her fate-friendly smile and welcomed her to the illusory courtroom, telling her to behave because the main circus was about to begin. The fog soon cleared, and she was suddenly in a mock courtroom packed with masked weirdos, and Sala's brother was there, sitting on the judge's throne like he owned the planet. The trial kicked off, and Melida still had no idea what she'd been dragged into. Mule helpfully explained that Sala's brother wasn't just the judge, he was also the mastermind behind this whole mess, and under his orders, she had lured Melida here. Melida finally put two and two together and told them to keep their soap opera. She had a librarian license test to pass, but Sala's brother told her to sit tight, calling her the fake daughter of House Angel. He told Mule to start recording, and she activated Anders' codex before warning Melida to watch her mouth because, from now on, every word could be used against her. Big Bro banged his gavel and announced that her crime was that she deceived the country for 13 years about being a real Angel daughter. He claimed some random guy had shown up, saying he was her real father, and that since her class was samurai, clearly her bloodline was suspicious. Melida fired back that nobles didn't always produce paladins, but when Sala's brother asked why she suddenly awakened her mana after a long time, she went speechless. The background characters around her went crazy at her silence and began to drag her mother, saying she had cheated on Felgus. Melida finally snapped and told them to shut up. She said she remembered perfectly how much her mom had loved her in Felgus. She then promised to join the Crest Legion and prove her worth as an Angel through action. Just then, Sala's brother told her to prove it right away by beating Sala in a fight. Sala stepped forward like a puppet with strings attached, and while Melida begged her to stop, she didn't even blink. Elise tossed her sword to Melida, and Newell blocked Elise from interfering. So Sala told Melida to put down the blade and promised she'd end it peacefully. Melida replied that being a samurai class didn't mean weak, and they both got into an intense fight. Sala started raining spear attacks from above, but Melida kept dodging. Melida sprinted through the spear storm, trying to close the distance, and while the gallery thought Sala had her on lock, Sala's brother knew better. He knew Melida was preparing something dangerous, which made him wonder who the heck her trainer was. Melida soon stumbled, and Sala dove in for the finishing thrust, but that was her mistake. Melida dodged her attack and launched an attack that sent Sala crashing, shocking everyone. Melida turned to the audience and said she took pride in being a samurai, which would prove her worth. The masks started whispering that maybe she really was the Duke's daughter, and feared that kidnapping her was treason. Seeing this, Sala's bro decided to pull his trump card. The fountain pen he had given Sala slipped from her pocket, and a drop of ink from it bloomed into a black hole that caused massive chaos. Neil explained that this was an alternate fountain pen that could rewrite magical text to cover up everything that had just happened. The black hole expanded and started gulping the masked guests while the survivors ran for their lives. Melita decided to end the ink dragon right there, and Elise and Newell joined her, helping to usher the people out. While at it, an old lady tripped over and her mask fell off, only to turn out to be Elise's head maid. However, Melita didn't hold anything against her and let her go. They were almost free when the garden door slammed shut, and the same clown-masked figure who claimed to be Melita's dad appeared. He turned the realm into a cage and announced that the true final event had just begun. Elise cursed him and charged to avenge her sister, but the freak splashed black ink over her sword, corroding it instantly, and then booted her across the room. However, Melita managed to catch her, but the masked guy turned and sent the ink tide straight at Melita next, but Kufa stepped in at that moment. He told her to wait behind while he faced the crazy guy, but she said she wasn't gonna fight behind him anymore, making Kufa proud as a teacher. They both faced the villain, and while Kufa kept him busy, Melita slipped around his blind spot to sneak an attack. However, he dodged her first strike, but he was soon overwhelmed when Kufa hit him into the sky. Melita hit him even higher, and Kufa unleashed his ultimate technique, the Thousand Blades, summoning phantom swords that shredded the masquerade to pieces. Melita was excited and ran straight into her tutor's arms, surprising Mool and others. Following that, they returned to the real world, and Salacha's brother quickly blamed everything on the masked guy, claiming he was just a Rogue Crest Legion dropout, allowing him to neatly cover his tracks. Meanwhile, Felgus doubled Academy security to prevent another occurrence, and when it came time for him to leave, Melita gathered her courage to speak with him. To her shock, Felgus reassured her, saying that during his grandmother's time, one of her relatives also had the samurai class. He even complimented her by saying she resembled her mother, and hearing this, Melita broke down crying, because being recognized by her father was what she had always wanted. After Felgus, Kufa stayed by Melita and promised that things would only get better from here. Later in the garden where he had first saved her, Melita reminded him that he had promised to reward her with anything she wanted if she passed the Vibria Goat exam. When Kufa asked what she wanted, she told him that she wanted him to be there when the world finally acknowledged her someday, and rather than entrusting her life to him, she would like to risk hers for him. Kufa was stunned and kissed her hand, as he thought that she was his only pride as an assassin. If you enjoyed this recap, smash the like button and comment assassin in the comment section. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're yet to for more action, plot-filled adventures. If you want another anime recap like this, watch this video right here.